Hello, my friend. It is so good to have you here today. Welcome back to Sportivo Global. Find a comfortable place to sit and let the noise of your day grow quiet.
Have you ever been told that something was not for you? That you were too small, too weak, too slow to do the thing your heart wanted? Most of us hear a sentence like that at least once in our lives. Tonight, we walk through the life of a boy who heard those words before he was even old enough to understand them. He was 11 years old. A doctor looked at his body and told his family the truth. This boy might never grow past 1 meter and 40 centimeters. For a child who dreamed only of football, it was like hearing a door slam shut before he had even tried to open it. And yet, that same boy would grow up to become the man many people call the greatest footballer who has ever lived. A man with 8 Ballon d'Or trophies. A man who has scored more than 900 goals. A man who finally, after 15 years of trying and failing, lifted the World Cup into the sky. So come with me, my friend. Let us travel to a small, dusty city in Argentina. Let us follow a boy so small that grown men could not believe what his feet could do. This is the full story of Lionel Messi. Lionel Andrés Messi was born on the 24th of June, 1987, in Rosario, the third largest city in Argentina. It is a working city, built on the banks of the Paraná River, famous for steel, for grain, and, though nobody knew it yet, for producing the most gifted footballer of his generation. His father, Hormone Messi, worked at a steel factory. Long hours, hard hands. His mother, Celia Cuccittini, cleaned houses and worked at a magnet factory to bring in extra money. They were not rich, but their small house was full of noise. 4 children, and always the sound of a ball bouncing against a wall. Lionel was the third of 4 children. From the moment he could stand, he chased a ball. His father said something beautiful about him once. He said it looked as if the ball was tied to his son's feet by an invisible string. Wherever Lionel walked, the ball followed, like it belonged to him and only him. There was another person in this early story who mattered more than most biographies remember: his grandmother, Celia. She was the one who first took him to play organized football at just 4 or 5 years old with a local club called Grandoli, where his father coached. Some in the family say it was her insistence that got him onto the pitch that day when the team was short a player. Lionel scored, and something began that would not stop for the next 4 decades. At 8 years old, he moved to a bigger academy in Rosario, Newell's Old Boys, one of the city's 2 great football clubs. He was always the smallest boy on the field. The other boys gave him a nickname, La Pulga, the flea. But the flea had a secret. When the ball touched his foot, the game became simple. The bigger boys could not catch him. The faster boys could not stop him. The youth team he played for won more than 100 matches in a row. Coaches in Rosario started calling that group La Máquina del 87, the machine of 87. It turned out to be a kind of prophecy, because the boy at the heart of that machine was about to become one himself. But first, his own body had to betray him. At 9 years old, Lionel simply stopped growing. At first, nobody worried too much. Neither of his parents was especially tall. Maybe it was just genetics. But by the time he was 10, then 11, the truth could no longer hide. The family took the long bus ride to a clinic in Rosario. There, a doctor named Diego Schwartzstein ran the tests. Blood samples, questions, waiting. Then, finally, the verdict: growth hormone deficiency. A rare but treatable condition. Treatable, but expensive. Close to $900 to $1,000 a month in a country where that kind of money was simply out of reach for a factory worker's family. The treatment itself was brutal for a child to face alone. Every single night, for years, Lionel had to inject the hormone into his own leg. Can you imagine that, my friend? An 11-year-old boy, alone in his bedroom, holding a needle, looking down at his own thigh and pushing it in, night after night, year after year. Perhaps that is where the real story begins. Not on a football field under bright lights, but in a quiet bedroom in Rosario, with a small boy learning that even his gift would come at a cost.
Newell's old boys promised to help pay for the treatment. For a while, they did. Then the promises grew quieter and eventually stopped. River Plate, one of the biggest clubs in the country, looked at the boy's talent, looked at the medical bill, and walked away. Door after door began to close.
For 2 long years, the family searched for a solution while Lionel kept injecting himself in silence. Then, in the year 2000, something happened that would change the direction of world football forever. A phone call came in from across the ocean. It came from Spain. FC Barcelona wanted to see him. A family friend with contacts in Spanish football, Horacio Gajoli, helped arrange a trial. Jorge took his son across the Atlantic. The tryout at Barcelona's training ground lasted only a matter of minutes before the coaching staff understood exactly what they were looking at.
Carlos Risac, Barcelona's technical director at the time, watched the small boy move with the ball and had seen enough. But the Barcelona board back at the office hesitated. The boy was 13. He was small. He had a costly medical condition. It was, on paper, a risky signing. Weeks passed. The Messi family waited in a hotel in Spain, money running low, patience running thinner. Jorge began talking about taking his son home. So on the 14th of December, 2000, Rexach met Jorge for lunch at a tennis club, determined to settle things before the family gave up and left. There was no contract on the table, so Rexach turned to a waiter and asked for anything he could write on. The waiter came back with a paper napkin.
Rexach took out a pen. He wrote a few short lines committing Barcelona to sign the boy. He signed his name. And with that, the most famous napkin in football history was created. The kind of paper you would normally use to wipe your mouth, now holding the opening line of one of the greatest careers the sport has ever seen. Barcelona agreed to pay for Lionel's medical treatment. The family packed their lives into suitcases and crossed the ocean. The boy who had been told in a clinic in Rosario that his body might fail him walked instead through an open door in Barcelona. Life in Barcelona was not simple, and it certainly was not glamorous. Lionel entered La Masia, Barcelona's famous youth academy, a stone farmhouse where the club's most promising young players lived and trained together. He was 13 years old, thousands of kilometers from Rosario, and desperately homesick. His accent marked him instantly as an outsider. He was quiet, shy, and small, smaller than almost every teammate around him. For a long stretch, part of the family, including his mother and siblings, stayed behind in Argentina while the paperwork and finances were sorted out, and Lionel lived largely with his father in a small apartment near the training ground. He has said in later interviews that those early months were some of the loneliest of his life. He cried often. He called home constantly. And every night, no matter how tired he was, he still had to give himself the growth hormone injection. But on the field, something different happened. Nobody could laugh at him there. His new teammates, boys like Cesc Fabregas and Gerard Piqué, who would go on to become stars themselves, quickly understood that the small Argentine boy saw the game differently than anyone else. He didn't just play football. He seemed to solve it, one movement at a time. By 16, his body had begun to catch up, thanks to the treatment. He was still not tall, but he was strong, quick, and impossibly balanced on the ball. Barcelona moved him rapidly through the club's youth ranks. He made his official first-team debut on the 16th of October 2004 against Espanyol, becoming one of the youngest players ever to appear for Barcelona's senior side. Then, on the 1st of May 2005, at the Camp Nou, his first competitive goal arrived. Barcelona were playing Albacete. Ronaldinho, already one of the most beloved players in the world, lifted a soft, delicate pass over the defense. The 17-year-old Messi didn't even break stride. He chipped the ball over the goalkeeper with his left foot. Goal. Ronaldinho, the biggest star in Barcelona at that moment, lifted the teenager onto his shoulders and ran him around the pitch. The crowd at Camp Nou stood and roared, not fully understanding yet what they were cheering for. How could they? Even now, watching that old footage, there is something moving about it. A 17-year-old boy on the shoulders of his hero, scoring the first of more than 900 goals that would follow. Neither of them could have known that night what was coming. What followed over the next several years is something that still feels difficult to believe, even in hindsight. In 2006, Messi won his first La Liga and Champions League titles with Barcelona. He was 18 years old. Then, in 2008, a young coach named Pep Guardiola took charge of the first team. Guardiola built his entire footballing philosophy around one player, around one foot. His left foot, to be exact. The style of play became known as tiki-taka, quick, patient passing, always moving the ball toward Messi's feet in the spaces where he could do the most damage. It was, many say, the most beautiful football the world had seen in 50 years, and it was built, piece by piece, around one small man from Rosario. Then came a season that should, by any reasonable measure, have been impossible. In 2009, Guardiola's first full season in charge, Barcelona won every single trophy available to them. 6 trophies in one calendar year. La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Champions League, the Spanish Super Cup, the UEFA Super Cup, and the Club World Cup. No club had ever achieved anything close to it. At the end of that year, Messi won his first Ballon d'Or, the award given to the best footballer on the planet. In 2010, he won it again. In 2011, again. In 2012, again. 4 consecutive Ballon d'Or awards, a record no player had ever held before.
Remember the boy from the clinic in Rosario? The one doctors feared might not grow tall enough to compete as an athlete at all? He was now, by nearly every measure, the best footballer alive. And yet, the most extraordinary thing was still to come.
In that same year, 2012, Messi scored 91 goals in a single calendar year for club and country combined. 91. Stop for a moment, my friend, and let that number sit with you. No player in the modern era, not Pele in his prime, not Maradona, not his great rival Cristiano Ronaldo, had ever come close. The previous record, 85 goals in a calendar year, had stood since 1972, set by the German striker Gerd Müller. Messi did not just break that record, he demolished it. There is one goal from these years that has become pure legend. In May 2015, in a Champions League semifinal against Bayern Munich, the German defender Jerome Boateng, a World Cup winner and one of the finest defenders alive, stepped up to face Messi one-on-one. Messi took the ball, faked one direction, then the other. Boateng's legs tangled beneath him, and he fell to the grass. Millions of people watched on television as Messi, without even glancing down at the fallen defender, calmly chipped the ball over goalkeeper Manuel Neuer, another World Cup winner. 2 of the world's best defensive players, made to look like children on a Sunday pitch. His teammate Andrés Iniesta summed it up best. Messi leaves us speechless. But here is something strange about Lionel Messi that has stayed true his entire career. He never celebrated like other great players. No roaring, no pulling off his shirt. He would score, turn, and walk quietly back to the center circle, as if scoring the most impossible goal in the world was, to him, simply the most ordinary thing that could happen on a Tuesday night. For all of Messi's success in Barcelona colors, there remained one enormous, painful gap in his story: his country. Argentina, a nation obsessed with football, a nation that had produced Diego Maradona,
was still waiting for its next World Cup hero. And for years, that wait continued to hurt. In 2014, Argentina reached the World Cup final in Brazil, only to lose to Germany in extra time. Messi, exhausted and visibly heartbroken, was named the tournament's best player, an award that night must have felt like a cruel joke. In 2015, Argentina reached the Copa America final and lost to Chile on penalties. In 2016, in the Copa America Centenario final, again against Chile, Messi stepped up to take Argentina's first penalty in the shootout. He had taken thousands of penalties across his career and rarely missed. But on this night, in front of 80,000 people in New Jersey, something gave way. He struck the ball high over the crossbar. Argentina lost the shootout. The greatest goal scorer in football history had missed the one kick he wanted most. Lionel sat down on the grass, shoulders shaking. The cameras found his face. He was crying. In the locker room afterward, he told journalists he had made his decision. He was finished with the national team. 4 major finals, 4 losses. He was 29 years old, and for the first time in his career, the machine had found something it could not fix by trying harder. The reaction in Argentina was immediate and enormous. The country's president personally appealed to him to reconsider. Diego Maradona himself spoke out publicly, urging him to come back. Newspaper front pages for days carried a single message: Vuelve, come back. 6 weeks later, Messi reversed his decision. Not because he suddenly believed Argentina would win, but because, in his words, he could not turn his back on his country. The years that followed brought little reward. Argentina struggled. Then, on the 25th of November, 2020, something happened that changed the emotional weight of the entire national team. Diego Maradona, the man many Argentines still considered the greatest player who ever lived, died at the age of 60. The country entered 3 days of official mourning. Something quietly shifted after that. Some in Argentina later admitted it felt almost uncomfortable to say out loud. With Maradona gone, the pressure to be Maradona, to live up to a ghost, finally lifted from the team's shoulders. They no longer had to replace a legend. They could simply try to become something of their own. 8 months later, in July 2021, that shift proved true. Argentina reached the Copa America final again, this time against Brazil, played inside Brazil's own stadium, the Maracanã. In the 22nd minute, Ángel Di Maria scored the only goal of the match. Argentina held on. When the final whistle blew, Messi dropped to his knees and wept on the grass. After 15 years wearing the Argentina shirt, he had finally delivered a major trophy for his country. Less than a month after that celebration, the worst professional blow of Messi's career arrived. On the 8th of August, 2021, he sat down at a press conference at Camp Nou. He was 34 years old. He had spent 21 years at FC Barcelona, his entire adult life, one club, one city, one shirt. Barcelona had collapsed financially. Even though Messi had offered to accept a 50% pay cut to stay, Spanish football's financial rules blocked the club from registering a new contract. There was, in the end, nothing more to be done. He sat behind the microphone. He tried to speak. The tears came before the words did. His wife handed him a tissue. For a long moment, the room held nothing but the sound of his breathing. When he finally found his voice, he said, "I was not prepared for this. I gave everything, from the first day to the last. I never imagined saying goodbye." The boy who had arrived in Barcelona as a 13-year-old with a needle in his thigh was leaving as a 34-year-old man. One of the greatest players the sport had ever produced, walked out the door by a financial crisis rather than a footballing decision. He moved to Paris Saint-Germain. He played 2 seasons there, winning 2 French league titles,
standing alongside superstars like Neymar and Kylian Mbappe. But by his own admission, Paris never quite felt like home. It felt more like a hotel, a place to pass through on the way to somewhere else. The goals kept coming, but something in the story felt like it was waiting. The 2022 World Cup, held in Qatar, was supposed to be Messi's last realistic chance to win the one trophy that had eluded him his entire career. He was 35 years old. His body was not what it had been a decade earlier, but his footballing mind, the part of him that had read the game better than anyone else for 30 years, had not slowed down at all. Argentina's tournament began in near disaster. Their opening match was a shocking loss to Saudi Arabia, ranked far below them. The entire country fell into a kind of stunned silence. It looked, for a moment, like the dream was over before it had properly begun. Then, something extraordinary happened. Argentina won every match after that. They beat Mexico, Poland, and Australia. They defeated the Netherlands in a tense penalty shootout. They beat Croatia in the semifinal. On the 18th of December, 2022, at Lusail Stadium, Argentina walked out to face France in the World Cup final, the defending champions, led by a rising young superstar in Kylian Mbappe, a player many already saw as Messi's heir. What followed has been called the greatest final in World Cup history. Messi scored from the penalty spot in the first half. Di Maria added a second. After 80 minutes, Argentina led 2-0, and France looked broken. Then, in a stretch of 97 astonishing seconds, Mbappe scored twice, leveling the match at 2-2. In extra time, Messi scored again, putting Argentina ahead. Then, Mbappe equalized once more with a hat-trick goal. 3 goals apiece. The match went to penalties. Messi walked up to take Argentina's first kick. The eyes of hundreds of millions of people were on him. He had missed a penalty in another final 6 years earlier on a different continent. He struck the ball. It flew into the net. France missed 2 of their attempts. Argentina won the shootout. Lusail Stadium erupted. Messi dropped to his knees, looked up at the sky, and cried. After 15 years of waiting, after 4 lost finals, after the penalty that sailed over the bar in New Jersey, now, finally, the sky. 36 years had passed since Maradona lifted that same trophy in 1986, almost exactly 1 generation. And on a December night in Qatar, the boy from the Rosario clinic lifted the World Cup above his head and would not let it go. 3 months later, the story took a darker turn. On the night of the 2nd of March, 2023, 2 men on a motorbike stopped outside a supermarket in Rosario. The shop belonged to the family of Messi's wife, Antonella Ricuzzo. The men fired 14 shots into the front door. No one was hurt. The shop was closed at the time. But before leaving, they left a message written on cardboard on the ground. Messi, we are waiting for you. Rosario, the city where Messi's whole story had begun, had by this point become one of the most violent cities in Argentina, with drug cartels controlling entire neighborhoods and the city recording hundreds of murders the year before. Just months after Messi had brought his country its greatest sporting joy in decades, his own hometown was sending him a message written in gunfire. He did not respond publicly. He did not visit Rosario for a long time afterward. The man who had given his country its greatest triumph in a generation had been reminded, in the harshest way possible, that even the most celebrated hero cannot always feel safe in the place he came from. In the summer of 2023, Messi made a decision that surprised much of the football world. He signed with Inter Miami, a club in the United States, in a country that had, historically, cared very little about football compared to the rest of the world. Many assumed it was a soft, comfortable retirement, the greatest player alive winding down in a league considered well below Europe's elite competitions. They were wrong. Messi immediately transformed the club. He led Inter Miami to the League's Cup title within weeks of arriving. He won the Supporters' Shield in 2024. He was named MLS's most valuable player in both 2024 and 2025, the first player in league history to win the award in back-to-back seasons. In 2025 alone, he scored 29 league goals and added 19 assists and led Inter Miami to their first ever MLS Cup title.
Then, on the 18th of March 2026, a number appeared next to his name that only one other man in football history had ever reached: 900 career goals. Stop for a moment, my friend. Think about what that number really means. 900 times, across more than 20 years, in Rosario, in Barcelona, in Paris, in Florida. A small boy who was once told his body might betray him kicked a ball and watched it cross a line into the net. The goal came against Nashville in a CONCACAF Champions Cup match in the 7th minute with his left foot, as always. He joined his old rival, Cristiano Ronaldo, as the only two men in the sport's history to reach that number. Two completely different careers, two completely different paths, arriving at the very same impossible sentence. When Messi scored his 900th goal, he did not roar. He did not run to the cameras. He did what he had always done since he was 17 years old on Ronaldinho's shoulders. He turned and walked quietly back to the center circle. And now, in the summer of 2026, the story is still being written. The FIFA World Cup is being held across 3 countries: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Lionel Messi is 39 years old. This is his 6th World Cup, a record he shares with only one other man, Cristiano Ronaldo. He does not need this tournament. He has already won everything there is to win. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to chase. And yet, here he is. In the group stage and the early knockout rounds of this tournament, he has already scored 8 goals, more than any other player in the competition. Against Cape Verde in the round of 32, he opened the scoring in a match Argentina barely survived. Against Egypt in the round of 16, with Argentina down 2 goals with just over 10 minutes remaining, he set up 1 goal and scored the equalizer himself as his team produced one of the great comebacks in World Cup history. This past weekend, Argentina met Switzerland in the quarterfinals, fighting for a place in the Final Four. How this story ends, my friend, none of us watching tonight yet know. Maybe he lifts another trophy. Maybe this really is the final chapter of his international career, closing not with a quiet retirement, but with one last extraordinary run. Maybe his final World Cup goal has already been scored, and none of us realized it in the moment. That is simply the nature of great stories. They rarely announce their own ending. They walk quietly into the distance and leave the rest of us standing on the grass, still watching. We have come a long way tonight, my friend. We started in a small clinic in Rosario with a boy whose feet did not reach the floor. We traveled through a napkin signed in a Spanish tennis club, through a homesick teenager in a farmhouse dormitory, through 91 goals in a single year, through a missed penalty under the lights of New Jersey, through tears at a press conference and tears of joy on the grass in Qatar. And now, we stand in the summer of 2026, watching a 39-year-old man chase a ball one more time. The story of Lionel Messi is not really a story about football. It is a story about something older, about the gift inside a person, and what happens when the world keeps closing doors in front of it. Writers have often called him a machine, but I think that word is wrong. A machine does not cry on the grass. A machine does not kiss a trophy like it were a child. A machine does not carry a country's hope on its back for 15 years and keep walking anyway. What Lionel Messi carries is not a machine. It is a gift. And that gift is older than every verdict a doctor or a rival club or a hometown ever handed him. And you, my friend, maybe tonight, listening to this story, you were also thinking about something inside you, something small,
Something the world keeps telling you is too late, too unlikely, too much. Maybe a verdict has already been read to you in some clinic of your own. Maybe a door has already closed in your face. But here is what the story of Lionel Messi reminds us. Sometimes the thing inside you is older than the doors that try to stop it. And no one and nothing can take that away from you without your permission. All you have to do is one thing. Keep going. One step at a time. Until the very last whistle.
Thank you for walking through this story with me tonight, my friend. If it moved you, leave a comment below and tell me which part of his life stayed with you the most. The boy with the needle, the napkin in Barcelona, or the boy who finally touched the sky in Qatar. And next time, we travel to a story of another kind. A small object that fits in the palm of your hand, that has crossed oceans, started wars, and quietly changed the way the entire world keeps time. Like, comment, and subscribe our channel. Take care of yourself, my friend. I will see you soon.